I will stay in contact with Mike till the day I die.
Yeah.
Mike is my friend, and you know, the UFC was sold to WME. They have their own thoughts on what they want to do, and I will be friends with Mike Goldberg till the day I die.
Can't
I love
give
that
the guy a sign off though.
Yeah, man.
You're so good.
I didn't know what to do,
so
man.
Alright, so in this video I want to talk about how Mike Goldberg was done unbelievably dirty by the UFC, and the manner in which he was let go from the company still makes me a bit angry for him. If you somehow don't know who Mike is, he was the lead voice of the Octagon for 19 years, and to this day he's still seen as one of the most iconic commentators in UFC history, with most fans putting him just behind Joe Rogan in terms of being the most impactful commentator for the company. And in spite of the fact that this guy gave nearly 20 years of his life to the UFC and helped introduce a countless amount of fans to the sport, in 2016 they kicked his ass to the curb without even giving him a chance to say goodbye, and not even a single acknowledgement of all the good things that he's done for the company. Okay, but why was Mike let go from his position? Well, the real answer is that nobody really knows for sure what the UFC's true motives were for dumping him. But in the context of Mike, I can genuinely see the reason for him being let go be for personal reasons, professional performance, and perhaps even both. I mean, back in 2013, there were widely reported rumors that Mike was forced to enter rehab, with many reports claiming that he was addicted to Adderall. Dana White's statement that he made on the matter didn't help stop the rumors, when during this time he very cryptically made the statement that Goldberg is taking time off and is not working this weekend. I don't know when he will be back. And in Mike's defense, he later came out and declared on the MMA Hour that he absolutely did not have a drug problem and was simply in the hospital getting treated for a respiratory infection that he got while he was commentating for the UFC in Brazil. Anyways, the main reason why people seem to think that Mike was let go from the UFC is much easier for me to believe, in that this guy just wasn't really all that great at his job. I mean, don't get me wrong, the guy to this day still has the best voice built for commentating in UFC history, and his catchphrases that he repeated every single fight remain legendary. But the truth of the matter is that Mike, for whatever reason, was never able to develop his knowledge of the sport beyond a casual at best understanding. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure how you can watch the UFC live in person up close as often as he did for 19 straight years and not ever learn more about fighting, but somehow Mike's commentary performance stayed at the same exact level of understanding for damn near 20 years. And as you can probably imagine, after 20 years of consistent faux pas, errors, and just general fuck-ups, the guy developed a mountain of commentating lowlights to the point where a bunch of asshole YouTube commentators have made compilation videos making fun of this poor innocent man for his mistakes on the job. Who could ever do such a thing? And it's funny because in the early days of the UFC, Mike's complete and utter ignorance to what was happening in front of him wasn't all that big of a deal to most fans, seeing as most fans also didn't understand what was going on either. For the most part, we were all just a bunch of meatheads with bloodlust that wanted to sit back and enjoy watching grown men pulverize each other. But as time went on, and as more and more people started learning martial arts themselves, and as the level of MMA knowledge amongst fans continued to increase, it became painfully obvious that when it came to understanding the sport of MMA, Mike didn't know his ass from his elbow. Then people started complaining about Mike online, which only made things worse for him, and towards the tail end of his time as a UFC commentator, you can definitely tell that his performance started to irritate Joe Rogan a little bit. Because towards the end of their partnership, Mike would oftentimes say something inaccurate or just something flat out dumb, and it wouldn't be uncommon to hear Joe kind of snap at him for not knowing what he's talking about. Which, to be fair to Joe, I know that I would get a little bit irritated with Mike's performance if I were his partner as well. Though in hindsight, I wonder if Joe regrets these moments of him slightly losing his patience with Mike, because even though they're still apparently great friends, I'm sure these live moments of frustration didn't help Mike's case for remaining as a UFC commentator. All of this to say, was Mike Goldberg an iconic commentator for his time? Absolutely. But was he also kind of a casual who couldn't even pronounce most fighters' names properly and frustrated both fans and coworkers alike throughout the years? Yes, he was. And with all of this being said, all of the frustration and criticism came to a boiling point when in December of 2016, reports started to spread that Mike Goldberg's final commentary job would be at UFC 207 taking place on December 30th. This was confirmed by Dana White himself on December 28th, who refused to go into detail as to why Mike was being let go, and I can only speak for myself when I say this, but I remember feeling pretty shocked that the UFC never made an official announcement letting fans know that they were getting rid of Goldberg. Like, there was no video, no press release, no tweet, nothing. It just all felt very sudden sudden and abrupt to me, but I kind of just figured that they were going to do some sort of huge ceremonious send-off for the guy on the night of the event after 19 years of service. But nope, the entire UFC 207 event came and went. Mike Goldberg did all of his duties on the commentary booth as per usual, but there was literally not one single mention or reference by the UFC's production team that indicated that this would be his final commentary for the company. This is fucking disgusting to me. Like, sure, this guy Mike wasn't the best commentator in the world, much less the UFC, but he committed almost 2 whole decades of his life to help build and grow the promotion, and they do him like this? Ugh, this is so gross. I can't even imagine how Goldie must have felt when after the main event ended, the lights in the venue started to dim, and as the audience exited the building and the realization started to dawn on him that the UFC intentionally didn't prepare any sort of video package or even a simple announcement be made by Rogan to show this guy even a shred of gratitude for all of the things that he did to not help just the company but American MMA as a whole become what it was. Like, dude, in 2005, Mike Goldberg was offered a WWE commentating job that probably would have offered him more money than what the UFC was paying him, and when Rogan told Dana that Mike was considering the offer, Dana and Lorenzo Fertitta damn near had to beg him to stay and promised him that they would take care of him if he stayed with the UFC. And the fact that the UFC repaid his loyalty by silently giving him the old Yeller treatment is just crazy to me, and he absolutely deserved better than this. Okay, but I will say, in Dana's defense, it's pretty clear to me that it wasn't his decision to get rid of Mike, and even though Dana can be quite the scumbag, I really believe that if it were up to him, Mike wouldn't have been let go in the manner in which he was, and he might even still be a UFC commentator today, which might not be the best move, but at least he wouldn't have been thrown out like last week's trash. Nah, man, it was these low-life, good-for-nothing shit-for-brains executives who run WME-IMG that kicked Goldie to the curb like this, and I will never have any respect for this company for handling Mike's departure the way that they did. If you don't recall, in July of 2016, the UFC was bought by WME for like $4 billion, and throughout the remainder of that year, they completely gutted the company by firing over 100 Zuffa-era UFC employees, including some former fighters like Chuck Liddell and Big Nog. And hey, I understand why they wanted to get rid of Mike, seeing as his commentating skills weren't quite up to par with the new generation of UFC commentators that were entering the mix, but still, to not even give this guy the professional courtesy of preparing a 30-second video package to let him know that they appreciate what he did to help make the acquisition a reality is despicable. And look, I understand that Dana wasn't the one who made the decision not to renew Mike's contract, but Mike himself has said that in the lead up to his final UFC event, Dana didn't contact him at all to talk about the situation. And seeing as Mike literally sacrificed a huge commentating job with the WWE after Dana begged him to stay really makes my blood boil. The only coworker that's ever had anything good to say about Mike after his departure is none other than Joe Rogan, who's repeated numerous times that he and Mike will be lifelong friends, and even though he's never said anything outright that Mike was done dirty by WME-IMG, I definitely get the feeling that he's also pretty disgusted with the way that those miserable fucks handled things. Mike was a true company man who never spoke bad about the UFC and was present at almost every single UFC event during an era of the company when there wasn't really a rotating cast of commentators. This guy did more to grow the UFC than like 99% of employees, and even though he wasn't a perfect commentator by any stretch of the imagination, the way that he was let go was unprofessional, disrespectful, and honestly pretty gross. Not only that, and this might not bother some of you guys, but the UFC has never inducted him into the UFC Hall of Fame, which I really think they should have shown him this meaningless gesture by now, seeing as this guy worked for the company for 19 fucking years. And if you're wondering how Mike felt about all of this, he himself has said that he was shocked to find out about WME's decision not to re-sign him. According to Mike, he learned that they weren't renewing his contract about 1 month before UFC 207, and he understandably took this as a bit of a slap to the face. When Mike appeared on the MMA Hour in January of 2017, he outright said that he was disappointed with getting let go, how Dana didn't reach out to him about the decision, and how the UFC didn't give him any sort of tribute to his legacy on the final night of his UFC career. However, even in spite of getting corporately screwed by WME, Mike displayed a lot of positivity by saying that the fan reaction to his departure was overwhelmingly supportive, and that made him happier than any video package could have made him. However, on the topic of his relationship with Dana, Mike seems to have taken the high road with him, because in another MMA Hour appearance in 2022, he tells a story about how he randomly ran into Dana in Vegas, approached him, shook his hand, and simply thanked him for the opportunity to do what he did for the UFC. Jesus, Mike's a way better person than I am, because I don't know if most people would have been able to take the high road with Dana, seeing as he completely ghosted Mike prior to being dropped. Alright, and that's all that I wanted to talk about for this video. Again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like Mike Goldberg was an S-tier commentator or anything, but he was a good company man that believed in the UFC during a time when the sport was banned in half of the states in the US and was dedicated to Dana's leadership even when he had better offers to go elsewhere. And I'm sure some of you guys are going to talk about how Goldie crashed out of commentating for the NFL for a lot of the same reasons why he lacked as a UFC commentator, but that's not really the point here. He was devoted to the UFC for nearly 20 years. He was a consummate professional and he brought so many new fans into the world of MMA as a result. And even though it's easy to say that if Mike just improved at his commentary and took some other aspects of his job a little bit more seriously, then he would still be a UFC employee today, which is probably the truth. The guy is still a pivotal part of UFC history, and to see him get done so dirty by WME still makes me a bit angry nearly 8 years later. And sure, he was able to get a job at Bellator for a couple of years, and nowadays he's working as a boxing commentator, so I guess you can say he's landed on his feet since, but it's a damn shame how they treated this guy, and he absolutely deserved better. Anyways, that's the video for today. Definitely let me know if you think Mike Goldberg was shafted by WME-IMG like I do, or if you think he got exactly what he deserved. As always, if you liked the video, then like the video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.